Well, hello there. Got Kyle joining me this evening. We've got a guest of Teren Christensen. He's going to be joining us at the top of the hour here. So this is our live event where we interview him. We got a few topics that we wanted to dive into that we didn't get to the other evening. So, Kyle, excited to have you back on.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what do you got to start us off here?
We got a couple little nuggets I wanted to throw out, just a little bit of UW pride. Obviously, we love our good old Wyoming. So we had a couple players go undrafted, but they were signed as free agents here recently. So just want to give a shout out to Garrett Krall, defensive end for UW. He signed with the Miami Dolphins. And Logan Harris, guard, was signed by the Lions. And he's a special fun one because he was also born in Torrington. So he's completely Wyoming. I mean, born and raised, went to school here, and now he gets to live out that childhood dream. So good to see a couple more Cowboys out there.
Yes, for sure. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to do at the top of the episodes going forward is I wanted to have a quick song suggestion for the evening. And
Ooh.
the one I want to nominate this evening because it's been stuck in my head all day is Take On Me by the Real Big Fish. Obviously it's not their original song,
Dang.
but I'm in a ska kick again, so those
Oh,
guys
God.
scratch that itch for sure. But
Ska. I haven't heard that in so long. All right.
back back to the episode. we got a couple of news and notes from around the NFL that we want to get to. Uh, the Honey Badger has finally picked his destination and he is going back home. He signed a 3-year contract with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, he played at LSU, so going back to his stomping grounds there, and he's pretty fired up to go there. Obviously, that means both your team and my team that had a possible need at safety will have that need go unfilled. But happy
Oh
for
yeah.
him and happy for the Saints. Obviously, that's a great pairing there. You've got the home pride, so I think we'll see some really good football out of Matthew there in New Orleans.
Agreed.
And then you have some news on your Steelers. What do you have there?
Just kind of with obviously the fifth year option was a big topic this past week. Last pod, we talked about your guys, your Raiders not picking up a single one of your fifth year options. We did the same thing. I would say it's just as depressing to see on my side, not because I think they should have done it, but the Steelers rarely move up in the draft, and they moved up to take Devin Bush, number 10 overall. So, um, it's definitely a prove it year for him if he wants a contract with us. And really, even if it's with somebody else, he's going to have to show that he's back 100% from that injury. So, no
Yeah.
fifth year option.
And I think only 11 of the 32 first round picks had
Yeah,
their 5th year option picked up this draft. So obviously a lot of misses in that draft, which
says a
that was
lot
what
about the draft class.
20
Yeah.
2019 I think was that draft class. That sounds right.
Yes.
Pretty sure. Okay. So another signing that happened was with the Chargers. They picked up Kyle Van Noy, which I thought for sure he would be joining the Raiders because we have a need at linebacker. Obviously, we've got the New England connections there,
Yeah.
but the Chargers pick up a great player, and
It's a
man,
good
that
pick.
defense is looking pretty scary.
They're scared. I think they honestly probably have the best defense in the AFC West right now on paper. Um, I've always really liked Kyle Van Noy. I hated seeing him as a Patriot because I always liked his play style. But um, them Chargers, man, your guys' division's going to be lights out this year. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's just going to be good football to watch. I'll be
Yeah.
tuning into those games, when my guys aren't on. So
Well,
should be
and
wild.
if one team can mess it up, it's the Chargers because it seems like every year they have just a rash of injuries that are
Yeah.
inexplicable. I don't know
And
if it's
that's
their
why I
training
say on
staff or
paper.
what, but yeah, on paper for sure they have a pretty tough defense. So another topic that has been gaining a lot of steam over the past weekend, um, Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, the Titans went ahead and selected Malik Willis in the 3rd round. There was no secret really that they were possibly looking at getting a quarterback. And this was after the offseason where they entertained possibly bringing in Aaron Rodgers. They also entertained trading for Watson. Ultimately, obviously, they didn't end up doing that. But I think Tannehill, after the playoff loss to the Bengals, he's really got put on blast and had a rough offseason and all that. So it didn't come as a surprise to me that basically he said it's not his job to mentor Malik Willis. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts because when I first heard it, I thought one thing, and then I'll let you know kind of how I'm feeling about it now. But I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, I think there's two layers to this, and I'll kind of jump into that. But I do want to point out I did in my mock talk about these boys possibly going quarterback.
Yep. Oh.
Here. Rough being in that situation where they're bringing in the new guy, whether it be drafting him or free agency, bringing him in through free agency, and you're expected to just be the good guy and be okay with everything. Basically, the way I see it breaks down is he shouldn't have said it the way he did, for one. The appearance is, I think, the issue because he's not wrong. He's there to compete. He's there to get the starting job. It's a different thing when you're, if you were following up a Dan Marino at the very tail end of his career and he was spending time mentoring you. It's very different than an open quarterback competition. A guy was obviously brought in to compete. So I get that it's a little bit different. I think he could have worded it a little bit. I guess I don't really hold it against him because I don't think he's wrong. It's not his job. But for the sake of that quarterback room and things like that, maybe go about it a little bit differently.
Okay. So I think I got the gist of that. You kind of broke up there for a second, froze for a minute, but yeah, no, I think that's my exact sentiments as well. When I first heard it, I was pretty fired up. I was like, man, I can't believe that he's going out of his way to basically say, no, I'm not going to mentor this guy.
I know.
At the same time, you do have to realize that that guy is there to take his job. So, like, if he hurries him along and helps him to progress in his career path, in all likelihood, the Titans are going to move on from Tannehill next year. So, at some point, I can understand why he's not in a hurry to make sure that he's ready to go in whenever he needs to go in. But at the same time, if let's say Tannehill gets injured and Malik is not quite ready to go in, well, if they started hot and then they lose a bunch of games in a row, well, then they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So it's kind of a catch-22 where you don't want to replace yourself with the guy that was basically brought in to replace you, but at the same time, in regards to making sure the team's ready to absorb any loss that they might have, I mean, it's tough.
It's frustrating to me because, like, even his agent or someone, like, they knew this question was coming.
Yep.
All it would have taken was a simple, well, yeah, we're going to be in the same quarterback room. We're all going to help each other. We're going to grow as a room, help our team win. Yes, it's cliche. Yes, it's bullshit, but just do it.
Well, and it's going to happen naturally just by Malik's going to ask questions, and I don't think Tannehill's going to be like, go somewhere else. I don't want to talk to you or something like that. So I think he's going to do the right thing in the actual locker room. But yeah, that question's kind of a setup because no matter what you say, some people are not going to be happy with it. So
that's true.
Anyway, you've got a couple notes here. Anything else with the NFL?
I did want to bring up something. It's something I thought about today. Obviously, we're adding international games. We're going to have the first NFL game in Munich, Germany. Let me start by saying I think it's amazing that they're spreading the brand. I love the idea of expanding basically the fan base. But I'm going to tell you why I have a huge issue with these international games because I do think they affect seasons and the outcome. These players that are taking these long flights and turning it around in these shortened weeks, I have an issue with it. The one thing in my mind, that I think they should try to implement is only do these games week one, to where it can be set up so even if you have the games played a couple days early to give that team some extra time, a normal practice week, not including travel days. I
Yeah.
just don't like that. I mean, I get it. Like, I know like Jacksonville's one that's there's a lot, and I know they're not a contender, but I do think, or, haven't been a contender in years past. I do think that it impacts the season. Um, I mean, we've looked at it with Thursday night games and how that can affect, the week prior and the week after. A bye week, I mean, it's the same idea, just on the other spectrum. Usually coming out of the bye week, your team is more prepared, set up, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the international games as far as how they're being implemented. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it, I guess.
Well, I think anytime they do those international trips, the next week the team's on the bye, so they at least set it up somewhat to give them a break from all the travel and that. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, when you have 8 teams, if they're doing 4 games,
Yeah.
if you have 8 teams that are traveling to another country to play a game, and then the other 20, what does that leave? 24 teams don't have to travel to another country. I mean, that's obviously beneficial to them. So I get like that they want to grow the brand and all that stuff, but I feel like those type of things should be done in the off season. Honestly, do exhibition games or something with players that are, that's where you could do that developmental league. So
Absolutely.
you're sending guys that are fringe roster guys, some that are trying to make teams. You get them into those games, you pay them X amount to go to another country. Obviously the people in the other countries aren't going to see the best, but it's still going to be good football. It's still going to be NFL players. Maybe you don't
Well,
get to
that's
see
an
the
idea.
stars, but I think doing things like that where it's not affecting the regular season would be much more beneficial to
Yeah.
all the teams and a lot more fair, I guess. So, um, anything else NFL wise before we get to
I
MLB?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let me just say 2 things NBA, and then we'll move on to Major League Baseball. And I just wanted to say Gary Payton second. Missing him in this Memphis series, I think that could be a lot bigger impact than people think, just because of the defense that he can
Yeah.
play against John Morant, and then he obviously has those threes that he's been hitting from the corner. But it's absolutely painful for me to see that for him because he finally carved out a role on a playoff contending team.
No.
Uh, had built up essentially to the point where they were probably going to bring him back on the contract, but now he might not even be back in time for the to play in the playoffs again this season. So it's frustrating, and obviously that play was not something that needed to happen. Um,
Yeah.
in fact, Steve Kerr went as far to say as it broke the code and it was a very dirty play. I would tend to agree because even if Dylan Brooks says he was going for the ball was in front of Gary Payton and he was behind him. So even if he somehow hits that ball, there's a really good chance he's going to impact some other part of the body. And Gary Payton was already in the air. So you hit a guy in the middle of the air, anything can happen. And obviously we
Oh
saw
yeah.
knocked him right across the head, knocked his balance off, and then he had to catch him. He didn't have to catch himself, but it's a
Reaction.
natural reaction. Yeah, puts his arm down, dislocates his elbow, and breaks it. So just a really tough break for him. And then, like I said, Dylan Brooks, not a clean play at all. And he is missing this game that they're playing in right now. They do lead by 20 with just a few minutes left in the fourth quarter, so it looks like they should go up 2-1 in that series. But John Morant had a hell of a game in game 2. That was a
he went off.
pretty impressive playoff performance. So, trying to think if there's anything else. NBA wise, probably not. So let's go into Major League Baseball. And do you want to go Pirates first, or what do you want to do?
Sure. It's pretty quick and easy for me. We had two back-to-back doubleheaders because of rain delays. I mean, I guess a day in between, but back-to-back doubleheaders. Kind of same thing over. We lost the first one in both doubleheaders, and we were able to recover and win the second one. So splitting's nice. The frustrating part is in the first doubleheader, we had 5 errors. Or between the two games that day, we had 5 errors, and even Brian Hayes had one, which never happens. So it was pretty frustrating because we were in position to win that game. We had control the entire time, and then it got away from us. And then the same thing happened today. Unfortunately, our starting catcher got injured while running the bases, Roberto Perez. And then unfortunately, a handful of minutes before that, our backup catcher was piping off at the ump, and he was making some horrible calls at the plate, but he ended up getting ejected. So we had to have one of our infielders step in, Van Meter, and it was a shit show. We ended up giving up 7 runs in that and letting the game get away from us. So it was pretty frustrating.
That's brutal.
Well, I mean, there's so many nuances that go into being a catcher that people take for granted. I mean, there's literally no communication between them. He's not hooked up with the device on the wrist, and it's just, yeah, it was rough. But they rebounded and won tonight, so I will take it. The last thing I'm going to throw in before you dive into your A's stuff, my Penguins, man, we are in a hell of a fight with the New York Rangers first round of the NHL playoffs, and we won tonight 7-4 to take a 2-1 lead in the series. I could not be happier. It was at home. Go Pens. So I'm just super pumped about it.
Yeah, and I actually tuned into the Preds game game 2 against the Avalanche, and Preds fought them tough the whole game, and then ended up taking them into overtime, and then ended up losing. So it was a pretty hard fought match there. But so to get into the A's, well, I just want to do one quick shout out to Dusty Baker. He got his 2000th win as an MLB manager, and the first African American to do so.
I'm not laughing at him. Amazing. I'm laughing at the reaction you got out of people.
Yeah, so on Twitter, I actually congratulated Dusty, and just the only thing I said is wish he wasn't doing it for the Astros. And so the Astros fans all got triggered and started tweeting at me, and yeah.
They sent I was me laughing stuff, reading those.
Sent me a picture of a doll and said, "Show me on the doll where the cheating scandal hurt you," and things like that. So it was pretty funny. It made me laugh, and I'm so confused how me congratulating their manager made them so butthurt, but it did. So
only took one letter.
Yeah. Because of one extra S on the Astros. Okay, so moving into the A's, they have now lost 8 in a row. I think they've been shut out in 3, maybe 4 of those games in the losing streak. And they've been playing pretty bad baseball. Like, they've made more errors than any other team in the AL as of a couple nights ago. I'm sure that still stands up because they made 2 more today. And yeah, it's just been bad. I mean, the pitchers have been pitching pretty well, keeping the other teams from scoring a ton of runs, but our offense has just been non-existent. And I point to a couple people on the roster at this point. Elvis Andrus is batting, I believe, 185 now, and not playing good defense. And he's also keeping us from playing Nick Allen In fact, they sent him down the other day, even though he's probably our future at shortstop. So Elvis Andrews, I love the player, love the guy, but I think he's probably 3 years past the start of his rapid decline. And I think obviously the only thing keeping him on the roster at this point is his $15 million count against the payroll. And no other team's going to be willing to pick that up, even though the A's only owe half of that because the Rangers agreed to pay half when we traded for him. So essentially, $7.5 million is keeping Nick Allen from progressing in his development, and that's really frustrating to me because, like, we already have to pay him. Why are we not allowing Nick Allen to reap the benefits of actually getting some playing time? So him, and then McKinney. McKinney started hot, and I think he's actually around 100 now for his batting average. Making errors. He does play decent defense in right field, but you don't put a player out there that's batting 100. I mean, you just don't. They need to get sent down. In his case, he would have to get cut because he's out of options and he's bounced around the league so much. But I mean, I don't know what we have in AAA in terms of outfielders. I know we have like Sky Bolt and a couple other guys that when they've been up, they haven't played very well. But I'm almost positive anyone on the AAA team could bat 100.
Hit better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or at worst, the same. But
yeah.
So he's struggling, Billy McKinney. And then you have Christian Pache. They're not going to send him down. And I don't think that they should. I think they should allow him to continue to work out his kinks at the plate. He is batting below 200 at this point, but he's making a lot of hard contact. So that's promising just because, they're not dropping. Eventually, if you're hitting the ball hard,
they're going to start getting
they're going to start dropping. So at least he has some upside, but then you have Christian Betancourt, other than being a backup catcher. I mean, he doesn't really provide anything at the plate. Defensively, he's great, but again, if you can't provide anything at the plate and you're stonewalled by Sean Murphy being our current catcher and probably catcher of the future, and there's a guy called Shane Langeliers down in AAA that is just mashing the competition. I think he has more home runs than the entire A's team, and he's played less games in AAA. So Shane Langeliers, I would love to see him up to replace Betancourt. And then, like I said, Nick Allen, would love to see him up to replace Elvis Andrews. And then Sky Bolt, anyone else to replace McKinney. And then we have Ramon Laureano. He got suspended last year, and he has a couple games left. He should be back actually tomorrow to join them. So
that'll be
as long as everything's going all right with his ramp up from minor leagues into the majors, he should join us tomorrow, or they might make him join on Monday since we'll be heading to the next city. So really hopeful that, I think, honestly, Laureano coming back will lead to McKinney getting DFA'd. So I think he won't be on the team past either tomorrow or Monday. But I think that's all I had MLB-wise, other than, did you see the Madison Bumgarner hand inspection?
Dude. Oh, yeah. Wow. Did you see the different angles?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I'll just give you my opinion. When this first rolled out, even live, the announcers were tearing Bumgarner apart about how, this is what you get when you talk back to umps and blah, 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 blah. And the angles they had on camera right away, you couldn't see anything. So it just looked like an altercation. Granted, the calls that were being made were horrible. So they had, Bumgarner had, chirped up at him a few times prior. But that one angle from the side where you can see the ump's face the whole time, just dead stare and just massaging his hand over and over and over.
Yeah. No, it looked like he paid for a damn pedicure is what it looked like.
Seriously?
Or manicure, excuse me.
I made a joke on a post. Actually, I think Dallas Braden put it up. And I made a joke on there. I was like, honestly, Bumgarner should press sexual harassment charges for as long as that went on.
Yeah.
Like, it was uncomfortable. Like,
Okay.
not
So
okay.
for context, for those of you that are watching, this is what a normal sticky stuff check looks like. The pitcher will hold their hand out like this, and the umpire will go like this, and that's it. They just
Oh,
basically
hey.
touch their hand, both sides like that. That's it. It takes half a second, and for some reason, this umpire decided to like massage his fingers and get up in there, get both sides, and the entire time was just locked onto Madison Bumgarner's
Just
face,
making a
just daring
point.
him to look,
Yeah.
daring him to look. And so, for one, that wasn't a standard hand check, obviously. And two, like, if you've got something to say, then say it. Don't just bait him into saying something and then
Yeah.
toss him out. Like, that's 100% what he was doing. So,
Well, and how far into the game was it? It was the
the
first
first
inning,
inning,
was I mean,
yeah,
he had thrown a couple pitches
he was
and
at
already got
13
ejected.
pitches.
And Bumgarner is, let's just face it, the stud of the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even fathom what this. And then for that to put out his apology later, I mean, that's pretty damning stuff. You don't see that very often.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was definitely above and beyond what he should have
Oh,
been
man.
doing. And I can understand Baumgartner being frustrated because, yeah, like I said, he literally just baited him to do it. And I
Oh, yeah.
think umpires like that think they are the reason that people are tuning in to watch the game or come out to the game, and they want to be, front and center. They want to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
There's just no room for that in Major League Baseball. And unfortunately, the way that the Major League Baseball umpire union is, there's nothing that's going to be done about it. I mean,
Yeah.
Angel Hernandez has been in the league for what, 20 something years, and that guy's been awful every single year. So
Yeah. If you
how he
can't get
has a
rid of
job,
him, yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, if he's still in there, nothing's going to be done about this next guy. So it's just it's a joke to me. But Teren should be joining us here shortly. Kyle, was there anything else that you had, or should we take a quick break and then we'll jump back on when
Yeah,
Teren's
we
here
can
with us?
take a break here in a second. The only last thing I wanted to make a comment about, only reason I'm really paying that much attention to it, obviously, is us drafting Kenny Pickett. But I can't remember his first name now. Addison, wide receiver for Pitt, their top wideout, is entering the transfer portal. And this is another layer of things I never really thought about. I already had so many questions and concerns about the transfer portal. But when you're seeing teams that are like this, so they came off, winning a champion or ACC championship. Well, now Kenny Pickett gets drafted, and your star wideout said, "See you later." Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying it is another added wrinkle. I didn't think about like quarterbacks leaving or getting drafted. Well, then they don't want to be there anymore because they don't have a known quarterback. You know what I mean? Um, it's just crazy. You're going to see so much movement out of it. I mean, we already have, but it's just a weird concept. I'm really not a fan of it still.
Yeah. Well, and when you see things like the wide receivers basically saying, if I don't get enough NIL money, I'm going to transfer,
Right.
and you see stuff like that. So it's obviously not a perfect situation, and I don't think they really thought out everything. In
Yeah.
fact, I think NCAA just passed I don't know if it's an amendment to the NIL law where it basically says if any boosters have contacted recruits before they have joined the team as a transfer portal recruit. So if any of the boosters had talked to them beforehand, it would be sanctioned. So a lot of those teams that have had transfers come in, I think they're probably a little scared of what might happen here shortly on the other end. So, yeah, Teren, like I said, should be joining here any minute now. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back on as soon as I think he's having issues actually joining the stream. So let me send him the link and everything, and then we'll come right back on and get back in with Teren
Sounds
joining
good.
us. Okay.